Thank you, Avantika. We're bringing this a very special broadcast live to you from the Rajiv Gandhi Bhavan, where the Union Civil Aviation Ministry is housed. And of course, it's coming on a day when a very big decision was announced by the Union Finance Minister Arun Jaitley after the cabinet meeting yesterday. Joining us is a very special guest, Union Civil Aviation Minister, Mr. Ashok Gajapathi Raju. I know the Civil Aviation Ministry obviously entails a lot of issues, but we'll start with what obviously is the most topical issue and which just happened last evening, the announcement that Air India will be privatized, that there is an in-principle approval which has been granted by the cabinet for disinvestment of the national carrier. Now, so to deal with first the sentiments that are attached with the national carrier, of course, because everyone wants to know why finally after so many years after Air India became Air India in 1940s, have we made this decision? Was it an easy decision to make?
It's definitely no decision of this nature will be easy. And one thing, public fund. When you put in public fund, there are claims, counterclaims, and different things in which public fund can be invested in. So, in the priority of things, probably Air India might not rank very high. So that's the thing. So whatever it is, we would like Air India to become a great airline, survive, serve the people as it always did, which might not be possible as a public sector undertaking. So in principle decision has been taken.
Right.
And things will follow now. Suggestions will follow what to do with what and things like that.
Right.
And government will make up its mind.
Right. So, because this has been a decision which has been toyed with for a very long time, governments have thought about it. This is of course being touted as a big, bold decision that the Narendra Modi government has taken, a very reformist decision. And if you can actually see this through, this will be a big thing in the chapter of this NDA regime. What would you say forced your hand eventually to come to this conclusion? Because this is an idea which was also experimented with in 2000. It didn't happen. What forced your hand now? Why did you decide now is the time this has to be taken? This very difficult call, but it has to be taken.
You see, the question is, Air India is an airline which finances are rather bad.
Yeah.
And it had reached in a level of a debt trap. So if you want to protect jobs, and aviation is the way it has been growing, particularly in India, it can generate a lot of jobs and contribute to the economy. So you want it to go positive. And we know that governments, the way we function, decision-making processes within government is time-consuming,
right,
while economic activity works very, very differently. So I guess if it has to survive and continue as a good airline, it has to go, and one has to let go at some point of time.
Okay, one has to let go. In fact, that is what my next question was going to be about, because what we understood and what we heard is that the Ministry of Civil Aviation was not keen for a complete privatization as was proposed by the Niti Aayog. Obviously, the Cabinet Secretary took all of the recommendations on board, and that's the note that was presented to the Cabinet yesterday. You suggested a reduction in debt through sale of assets and subsidiaries, because that's how you saw the, the working capital loan being taken care of, at least 30,000 crores of it. You resisted complete privatization. Why?
You see, we don't resist anything. We are part of government.
Right.
So we don't resist anything. The different ideas that come in, and all these different ideas, they are looked into. We are not shooting down an idea straight away, because we would like to understand what we are doing, and we are going ahead like that.
All right. You've always, like you mentioned earlier as well, you said that the books of Air India are bad. You've said this before as well. What exactly led to this? We know that there is a CBI inquiry which is underway vis-a-vis the aircraft purchases that took place in the previous regime. Do you think that is what caused this sort of burden of debt on Air India, primarily?
You see, you can't, whatever caused the debt, you can't put the clock back and rework it. It's not going to happen. So what we have got, we have to work with it. Of course, there is a CBI inquiry ordered by the courts that is going on. Where it will take us, probably we'll become wiser after the reports come in. But there are different arguments that exist, that this debt is thrown up because of aircraft purchase, sale, all types of things. It's okay. These are basically academic. But you are now left with an organization which is literally in a debt trap. And it needs to come out of it. Otherwise it will crash like any other airline. Like you had more airlines closing than continuing. And the latest being probably Kingfisher, and then small little things around. So when an airline survives, it contributes to the economy. When it can't survive, it doesn't contribute.
No, but you must have had an opportunity to analyze. That's why I'm saying, is it the merger between Indian Airlines and Air India in 2007, the aircraft purchases that happened in the previous UPA regime when Mr. Praful Patel was the Civil Aviation Minister?
Well, whatever it is, it could be a cumulative effect of a lot of things. So I don't want to go into that because it diverts the argument. You see, what is the cause of this? It doesn't help us anyway right now. For what we want to do, what are the choices we have, and how to make this airline a good airline is what's the important thing, and I think we'll move in that direction.
So how do you intend to deal, for instance, this is a highly unionized PSU. The staff are going to resist, the 25,000 employees whose futures are at stake, as they claim. Only yesterday, a union was meeting with the Niti Aayog chairperson, and just a few hours later, the cabinet made this decision public. How will you allay their fears? They're asking for their salary dues. Will that be dealt with?
There will be concerns. Obviously, those who work would naturally have their concerns. So they would like their salaries to come. They would like to work for the airline. And this is exactly it. You see, now what are the choices that you have? So what are the implications of those choices? We would like Air India to survive. I've been telling everyone. I would like Air India to survive and continue to serve the people of the country, continue to serve the economy of the country. Now, it is not as if they don't know if Air India closes shop. All this is another problem. So, problem is there. It cannot be just wished away. And obviously, they have their concerns. So, those concerns also have to be addressed. So, everything has to be addressed.
How would you assure them as the Union Civil Aviation Minister is what I was trying to...
Well, they know. It's not that they are not aware of things. It's a highly competitive economic activity. And they have to survive in this economic activity.
Right. So in terms of, I know that a finance minister-led group, which will include you as well, will of course go into the modalities of how this divestment plan will take place, and the process will take a while, of course, because a lot of suggestions, recommendations will be taken on board. But have you considered what proportion of equity sale are you looking at? Because we've heard talk about 100% to 75% to 51%. If you look at any of these three options, then obviously you're selling out bulk of the stake. It doesn't remain the national carrier.
You see, whatever it is, we would like it to survive, number one. Then the other part of it is in discussion right now. There'll be certain advantages in certain types of decisions. There would be disadvantages. So anybody who has any suggestion, I think this is the right time to raise it. So we will take gather all these suggestions.
But do you have options on the table?
We have to put some options on the table. And
what are those ones that you're considering?
Like whatever comes in, whatever suggestions are there. Like you have just suggested certain things. Like this, everyone.
These are not my suggestions. That's what we hear from both ministry circles, of course.
That's okay. Yeah. Every free Indian can think freely and is free to voice their opinions. And we in government have to take them into consideration and take the best option which we think is viable. And that will come, that will emerge, and as soon as it emerges, it will be made public.
Have you had bidders come forward already? We hear that possibly the Tata Sons are interested.
Well, informally we understand, and from the press we understand there are a lot of people who are showing interest. So the whole exercise is going to be very interesting. So let's see what emerges.
But have you had any entity, company show interest already? Is news about Tata Sons being interested true or not?
I also read about it in the papers. So it's good. Anybody who has interest, why not?
Would foreign builders, I beg your pardon, bidders be also part of the process? Can they be part of the process?
Could be. You see, no decisions have yet arrived at. So could be.
So also one question which, you know, when we talk about sentiments, and you touched upon it earlier as well, we know how Air India has been the go-to airline for the nation in terms of emergency evacuation situations, be it Yemen, be it Qatar. We've seen how Air India has come in. Can we trust a private airline to perform its duty towards this nation with that same sort of sentiment? Can we even compel them to do so?
Well, I guess the government, when you own a thing in the government, there will be a bit of difference. Probably as civil aviation, who picks up the bill? That will be the thing. Here the government picks up the bill. There probably, if the government is willing to pick up the bill, I don't think Indians lack patriotism. In fact, that is a sentiment which is there in all Indians. So I guess when we go into that type of a thing, I don't think there will be any difficulty there or impossibility there.
Would you want majority stake to stay with the government? As Civil Aviation Minister, since you've analysed this.
These are decisions that have to be arrived at. And there has to be a reasoning behind each decision when you arrive at it. So you will examine the pros and cons of each thing and then arrive at a decision.
Do we have an estimate of the market value of Air India?
Even that is also has to happen. You see, like everything has to happen.
All right, okay, moving forward from the subject of Air India, GST, which is of course to be launched in a mega fashion tomorrow in the Central Hall of Parliament, sir. Is the aviation sector GST ready?
You see, GST will affect the aviation sector because petroleum products have been kept out of GST. State governments wanted petroleum and intoxicants to be kept out of it. So that way aviation turbine fuel, and it's a high taxed in quite a few states. So that is bound to affect aviation. How it will affect, we'll have to see, because I hope I'm wrong, because growths in India have been good, particularly in the past 3 years. So I think because the airlines won't get set-offs on their service taxes and all, because this is kept out. So in that sense, it's a difficult proposition for aviation.
Yeah, because we do understand that the Aviation Ministry did write to the Finance Ministry seeking for a deferment of the launch of GST, at least vis-a-vis the aviation sector, because a lot of airlines, I guess, petitioned the Union Civil Aviation Ministry. ITA has been writing to both ministries.
It is a problem. It is a problem. So I guess states where the taxes are lower will probably, other things being equal, airlines will tend to take advantage of it. Those that are high taxed, probably if other things are equal, airlines will try to avoid. So I guess that's what's going to happen.
Right. And they did point towards a lot of anomalies, in the sense, apprehensions they did express about input tax credit not being available on economy class travel, only on business class. They also spoke about the fact that they need more time in order to, effect the amendments vis-a-vis the global distribution system as well, in terms of the GST invoice rules. They need time for that. But eventually, after writing that letter, you took it back, saying, okay, we're prepared for July 1st.
No, July 1st, government has no alternative. It's a constitutional amendment that has gone through. And in the federal concept, all states and the Government of India, the Council has decided. So it has to go through. And I think after September, according to that constitutional amendment, there won't be any taxes otherwise, except this. So, anyway,
ideally, the aviation sector would have needed more time.
By law,
True.
we have to gear up. And the quicker we get prepared, the better, and time is running out. So GST is bound to come, and I think the impact will be there. And as far as aviation in its existing form within our country goes, it's not going to be easy.
All right, okay. So coming to the no-fly list, something that you spoke about in Parliament. You held a meeting yesterday, and what we believe it's probably on the anvil, probably by the first week of July, it could be made effective as well. This is obviously coming off the back of some very unpleasant incidents that happened in the recent past. First about the Shiv Sena MP Mr. Ravindra Gaikwad, then of course your own party MP Mr. Divakar Reddy. Two instances that were pointed out to in terms of his behavior last year as well and this year as well. Airlines go ahead and ban these members of parliament, which is a very bold decision, unheard of earlier. One airline does it, then everyone in solidarity does it. You agree with that decision?
You see, this civil aviation requirement under which it is being done was published in November 2014. There were a lot of advice at that particular point of time, and this was drafted. At that time, the press was not at all interested in it. So, and people's suggestions were at a very low ebb. So, it came in. Then suddenly from 2014, after this thing, we landed up with one incident. I told Parliament that in my wildest of dreams, I never thought that an MP would get caught in it. And then we realized also at that same time that this was slightly imbalanced, the whole thing, a force of law coming in. And being imbalanced is incorrect. So I told Parliament that we will be working on a new civil aviation requirement. And we worked on it, put it in the public domain. Suggestions have come in. And we started analyzing each of those suggestions. So yesterday was a routine meeting, analyzing those suggestions. And once we make up our minds, we will, and we feel that this is balanced, we will publish it, because we have done the public consultations. Suggestions have come in. So it's a question of coming to a decision. And that will come. At any rate, I never put timelines on these things, because there's no need for me to put timelines on it. We have to have, because these things will have a force of law. So it has to be balanced, it has to be reasonable, and it cannot just look at one incident or two incidents to come to a conclusion. So that's how it's going to be worked at.
But what we understand is that you're very close to probably finalizing, like you said, the consultation process, the wider consultation process has come to an end. It's between, in the ministry itself that you're basically tweaking the details of those draft laws. What would constitute misbehavior? What would put you on that list? And how would you get penalized? If you can give us a sense.
The draft itself gave 3 levels.
Yeah.
So if you have a 4th level, you could have added it there. You see, the thing is that whatever you could think of, you thought of and put it on. Whatever comes there in the final shape, it should fit within the legislation framework. It cannot be arbitrary, and it has to be fair. Fair not only to the airlines but also to the consumer, the passenger. So it has to be balanced. So this is how it is being worked out.
But in terms of penalties, sir, what are you possibly suggesting and recommending?
They said a no-fly list for certain periods. It cannot be for eternity. Even
1
that
year,
was also
2 years, 3 years.
Even that also was published in the car. The car that was published and put in public domain. So you can't just have a thing that is indefinite and for eternity. There has to be reasoning behind things, and that reasoning is going on.
So just one final question before we wrap up this interview. Also, this entire, putting together the draft laws in terms of VVIP perks and privileges, the parliamentary panel is suggesting that MPs now want privileges from private airlines as well. They want free meals, they want to be, upgraded to a business class seat without paying 500 rupees. So everything that they enjoy on an Air India, they want on a private airline as well. I mean, that seems a little outrageous.
I really don't know, because no MP has asked me about it. And I meet them literally when Parliament is on a daily basis. In fact, most MPs tell me that MPs should not have privileges. We are citizens of a country, and a free country at that. But MPs themselves, they say that there's one privilege which an MP needs for functioning, and that is freedom of speech. Though that is regulated also, but that freedom is fundamental to an MP's functioning, and beyond that, no MP asks these things.
But if they were to ask, would you support the idea?
These are ideas that we hear from the press, and it is in fact press people who have asked me for upgradations. I will not use names, but no MP has ever asked me that.
It's not part of the parliamentary panel's suggestion. It
might be the parliamentary panel's suggestion.
You wouldn't
I don't
support
know.
it. You wouldn't support it?
I will definitely not support such a thing. We are all citizens of a free country. We are proud to be citizens of a free country, and we believe in equality.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, sir. On that positive note, we will call this interview to a close. Thank you so much for speaking to India today.
Thank you.